So, this is the research. First of all, when you switch from one task to the next, there's a cost. The first cost is what we call the gap. This research is 50 years old. When you switch tasks, there's a gap in time where nothing's going on in your brain. The reason you don't know about it is because you're not there. It's a gap. Okay? 5% of your day is estimated to be lost in the gap. Number two, task engagement. When you engage a new task, there's a lag. You could call that a boot up period, a time of booting into the task. You're remembering what you're supposed to do first. You're remembering all the key contacts, what you're not supposed to do, loose ends, all that sort of thing. 20% of your day could be spent in the lag. Then three, performance errors. If you're switching a lot, you could be making mistakes. You could be thinking you're in one task and you're actually in another. And you could do the wrong thing. 25% of your day could be lost with mistakes. And then finally, four, matter of fact, if you learn nothing else today, understand that prioritization is key to tasking. 50% of your day could be lost in faulty prioritization, meaning you could be doing the wrong stuff. It's not important. Okay? In any given day, you could be 100% ineffective. You could drive up into the parking lot and just turn around and go home and there'd be no difference. Because everything you did was wrong. It's sort of like this. Sort of like this. Nancy, we get hired into work at the same time. The same day, Monday. Our boss gives us something to do. Only you're 10 times better than I am at everything.
I know that.
She tells me every day. She tells me constantly. And we go about our work. Not only that, show-off Nancy decides to work an extra hour. She works 9 hours, I only work 8. At the end of the day, we turn our work in. You've worked through lunch now, and you've got this big pile of stuff. And I've got this little pile, and I give it to my boss. And I say, here's the work, boss. And the boss looks at it and says, okay, yeah, that's okay, fine, thank you. Now, Nancy, bring that stuff in here. And you bring him this cart full of stuff. Say, here, boss. And the boss looks at it and says, wow, Nancy, that's an incredible amount of stuff. But that's not what I asked you to do. Mike, you get the promotion. You get the car. You get the car. You get the house, everything. That's how that works. Working smart, not hard. Okay? Work smart first. So how do we get there? First of all, whenever you switch tasks, there are barriers to switching, and that's what we're really doing. What's the first barrier to switching? Task complexity. Complex tasks are harder to switch. You make more mistakes. You have more lag time. You have more gaps. So the more complex tasks there are, the more of a switching barrier there is. I remember when I first started work at Hughes Aircraft, the first day I turned in a proposal worth $7 million. 300 pages. Now at Edison, it takes you 3 weeks to learn how to do your time card. Everything is complex. Everything that you do is complex, and you have so many things to do, okay? Number two, frequency. How often do you switch tasks? The more often you switch tasks, the more mistakes you're going to make, the harder it is to switch. And then three, distractions. Distractions, a key barrier to effective task switching, which is what we're trying to do when we're multitasking. What kind of distractions do we have? Any ideas? Any suggestions on distractions you might have in the workplace?
People.
You have people? Telephones? Okay, here's the top distractions that have been reported in almost 50 times of talking about this so far. Interruptions, agree? Phones? Meetings? I mean, meetings are cool. You go to a meeting, you spend 4 hours, you don't get anything done, and you get more work. What's the downside of this, okay? Emails, noise, poor lighting sometimes can be a distraction, and the boss can be a distraction. The boss can be a distraction, not because they're annoying, they're beautiful people. But you're going to pay attention to them if they want your attention. Seating. Okay, emotional distractions, though, are even harder to get through. Emotional distractions are worse than the physical distractions. Things like, are you angry? Fear, unhappiness. Happiness is a big distraction, too. Jealousy, insecurity, defensiveness. Love, huge distraction. Love, are you in love? Okay. Anyway, emotional distractions. But here's some more distractions we're facing. Social media distractions. Because these are outside the job. Stuff that's always pulling you in, right? What are some of the social media distractions? Facebook, Twitter, blogs, communities, texting. I once worked with a couple of millennials. You know what millennial means? Okay? They were texting each other. They were sitting next to each other, texting each other. I said, why don't you talk to each other? They said, why? This is more... Anyway, the point is, instant messaging, YouTube, internet, gaming, another distraction. Gaming, many times we're playing games worldwide all the time, 24/7, so distractions. So in order to dig into this deeper and address it, I want to talk to you about your 4 brains, not your left and right brain, but your 4 levels of conscious behavior. And this is key to being able to effectively task. Understanding what level you're at and what the advantages and disadvantages of those are. First of all, physical brain, your reptilian brain, your brain stem, get it at birth, you're hardwired for it. Fight or flight syndrome, primal instincts, reptilian brain, okay? By the time you're 6 years old, you develop what's called the limbic brain, or the emotional brain. This is the brain we're mostly in. This is the conscious behavior we're mostly exhibiting on the job. You're working with a bunch of 6-year-olds, okay? I know you didn't know that, okay? Fully developed at 3 to 6 years old. It's called the emotional brain, the mammalian brain, this sort of brain. Analytical brain, prefrontal cortex, not hardwired for that. Developed 20 to 25 years old. And it's constantly being developed. If you don't use it, it's like a muscle, you lose it. Okay? It's the brain you want to be in for problem solving, for advanced work, for thinking ahead, for making good decisions. And then your subconscious brain, most people don't talk about this, but your subconscious brain, you're doing stuff you don't realize. Blind spots. Your whole life could be controlled by them and you won't even know it. You need to get a hold of that and investigate blind spots for your whole life, because it can control your destiny. And it's a key to leaps in influence and leaps in productivity. Okay, so Hawthorne studies, back to your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex many times is called your mental CEO, because that's where you want to go to make big decisions. If you're in your limbic system, you're not there. And we'll talk about how to get there in a moment. But Hawthorne studies are key to understanding this. 1920s, birth of industrial engineering, Hawthorne studies. Western Electric's Hawthorne plant, a bunch of industrial engineers got together to observe an assembly line of people making stuff. And what they did is they turned the lighting up and observed productivity. And the first time they turned the lighting up, what do you think happened to productivity? It went up. They turned it up again, lighting, productivity went up. They turned the lights up a third time, productivity went up again. Then they turned the lights down to where they started when they walked in the door. What do you think happened to productivity then? Went up. Then they turned the lights down below where they started, and what do you think happened to productivity? It went up. And then they gave everybody this tool that meant nothing. They found it out in the back, and they said, this is going to increase your productivity. And then they measured the productivity, and productivity went up. And the key to this, the astonishing results are this. If you observe it, it gets better. They knew they were being watched.